I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're listening to Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs, and the sins of the underworld. We're Ireland's top podcast for 2025, and now we've got a new website. So if you want to learn more about crime and criminals, if you want stories, extras, and podcast subscriber specials, go to www.crimeworld.com.
In the hell?
You will get shot, okay? You will get shot! Come on, Johnny! Put the knife down! Get inside now! Get inside! Get inside!
That is the very scary moment where Leon Wright is being confronted as he waves a knife outside a house in Ballymun. It was a confusing day, actually, because there was another major crime incident earlier on, but we won't go into for legal reasons. But ultimately, Leon Wright was also, taken into custody. Now, Leon Wright has been considered one of Ireland's most dangerous prisoners. Why is that, Alan? Tell us, I suppose.
Yeah, well, he's been in and out of prison since he was in his teenage years for very violent crimes. From the time he was a teenager, he was committing hijackings, assaults, robberies, all this sort of stuff. Very young age, serious anger issues. So was getting lengthy. I think he was 18 when he got his first very lengthy sentence, which was for a multitude of offences like that. Robberies, hijacking cars with people inside them, assaults, really violent assaults. But then when he was in the prison system, from that point on, it was just a nightmare for any of the prison officers working with him. He would have been committing just as many crimes, if not more, behind bars in a way. He was, over the years, I think he's got over 200, or well in excess now at this stage, hundreds of P19 forms.
Yeah, so P19s are internal disciplinary forms that are given by the prison system. Some of these, sometimes they will proceed. A threat against a prison officer might go to a court, they might bring in the guards, but often, lesser infractions will be given a P19 where they'd be maybe withdrawn privileges.
Yeah, and they can include the assaults and all that as well. So they're still given those forms, but certain offences will end up before the courts in a more serious way. But like you say, you could have different restrictions kind of placed on you because of other disciplinary things. Now, for Leon, when he was in prison, he basically had to be segregated from the rest of the prisoners. They couldn't let him into the general population because he had such anger issues. There was just constant problems behind bars with Leon.
Yeah, because what age is he now with this latest?
He's not too old now. He's 37. But
he's 37. So effectively, he spent the vast, vast majority of his adult life in prison. He has at times come out and he's almost inevitably being caught within a very short period of time. And he's one of these, I think there's a handful of prisoners placed in this special unit in Wheatfield Prison. What's it called?
Yeah, it's the National Violence Reduction Unit. And that would have been set up in 2018, by which time Leon had already spent a number of years behind bars. So previously, before that was set up, he would have basically been in solitary confinement. And there would have been a few issues over the years where he would have said his human rights were being breached by that, and he would have taken cases about it. So this unit was set up for prisoners just like Leon.
So there's about 5 or 6 of them.
Certainly at the start, yeah. There's different numbers at different times, but it's a very small number of people, and the prisoners involved are basically the highest risk prisoners to either prison officers, to other prisoners, to themselves, all that sort of stuff. They'd have very complex psychological needs. They'd have serious anger issues that they're not able to deal with in the same way as people who might be better off at regulating their anger.
Now, these guys aren't necessarily gangland hitmen or people that are dangerous in that way. There tend to be these very, very volatile, people that obviously capable of extreme violence. I mean, I think obviously one of the more famous of them would have been Warren Dumbrell, who was obviously maybe not as young as he once was, but he's serving a life sentence for the murder of a guy called Christopher Cawley. But Warren Dumbrell as well was one of these guys who couldn't really be managed in the prison system well. So there's only a few of those people like that.
Yeah, and Leon's kind of up at the top of that list, At different points, you'd have different prison sources would have told us and media that he was the most dangerous prisoner in Ireland. And he probably warranted that tag. If you look at his record, if you look at the amount of incidents behind bars, constant attacks on prison officers, he'd argue, I didn't do everything I said I did and all that. But look, he's certainly given the disciplinary thing for them all, and he's appeared in court for many of those incidents as well, or several of those incidents.
And when he does appear in court, you see this as well. We spoke about this before in connection with another prisoner, but these guys are regarded as so dangerous. They have this thing called control and restraint whenever they have to be removed or moved around the prison system or moved outside.
Yeah,
where they're basically surrounded by prison officers with riot shields, really.
It'd be so people would notice. You'd know what it looks like when you see kind of riot police or whatever like that. They've got the shields, they've got the bats, they've got the helmets on.
Yeah.
When they were dealing with Leon in the prison over the years, they'd have a team of 5 would go in anytime he needed to be moved from his cell. When he's appeared in court like that multiple times, where he'd be flanked by all these prison officers. That's how seriously they took the threat of spontaneous violence that could happen when he's around.
Because, of course, it did happen again and again and again. Now, in this National Violence Reduction place, like they have a few, obviously they're kept segregated, that's a burden, but they do have, I think they have a garden, don't they, and a few things like that. And
and your psychologists working there and all that sort of stuff as well. So you have, like for someone like Leon, it probably benefits him in his life to be in a place like that because he clearly does have serious psychological issues going on. There's no doubt about it. It's been brought up in court before. He has real great difficulty managing his anger. So what they try and do with this unit is it's not just about keeping them separate from the rest of the population, the prison population, or protecting the prison officers. It's actually about trying to help their well-being as well. So they're trying to get them out of that cycle of violence and learn to cope with those violent emotions.
And I mean, these guys, because obviously prisons are violent, and the prisoners, many of them are in for violent acts. So you do have to really stand out to be put in like this.
Like we say, there was 5 or 6. It's a handful of people. Like so this is like a lot of prisoners can be prone to violence. There's lots of gangland prisoners that could attack other prisoners. Things like that happen in prison all the time. But they might be able to regulate their violence better. These people are the people who really can't, and who prison services say, look, we really need to intervene on this person, or it's just, it's unmanageable. They cannot control it. So they try and, if you have these interventions, you have all these kind of complex psychological needs going on, you try and address them. So they're sitting down, they're constantly having these kind of discussions and therapies and everything else to try and get them out of that and learn to cope with it.
And they were given, I think you had in your piece that he was given a punch bag, for example.
Yeah, he was given a punch bag. Like they were hoping that if he can take out his anger on a punch bag, so he had that in the prison, look, it might stop him attacking other people. It might, things like that. They will use things like that to go, well, what can we do to try and, stop other people being hurt, basically.
So he's back in you're writing about him and we're talking about him this week because he's just been given another 7.5-year prison sentence. But let's, I suppose, go back into some of the reasons why he's spent the vast majority of his life in prison. When he was 18, he was given, I think, a 13-year sentence for, again, we see a lot of his crimes have been they've been a large number of offences kind of amassed together. None of them are some of them are very frightening, very violent, but none of them are sophisticated or big money making.
No, they're not. Like, he's not some kind of armed robber who's gone around doing big cash and transit robberies and making off with 100 grand. He's the type now that's going into a shop and pulling out a knife, but he's carried out serious assaults, or he could be the sort that jumps in a car, hijacks a car. He might get away with €200 from robbing a shop, but that shop keeper is terrified, by him coming out with a knife. And he is obviously prone to violence, and he has used it many times.
Yeah.
Like multiple assault convictions, robberies. At the start, it would have been robberies. I think when he's a teenager, robberies, hijackings, assaults would have been all bundled together in his first kind of big sentence.
Yeah, I think there was one of them where he held up a load of teenagers in Stephen's Green and with a knife and, very violent robberies, but all of that kind of nature. Then he went in and he had, I think he's originally, I think the court address he used recently was at Swords or somewhere like that.
Yeah, but if you look through his history, he has multiple addresses. Some of them are halfway houses or kind of places you want in prison. I think he's originally St. Teresa's Gardens in the kind of south inner city there. Is where he's originally from. But he's had multiple addresses when he's got out, but they're...
Exactly. And I think when he initially went, he was sort of pally with some of the people on the fringes of the Rattigan gang, and he was sort of treated as a relatively normal prisoner, but he was constantly in trouble straight away. like a lot of the troubles in the prison, like it's been assaults really, hasn't it? Both prison staff and other inmates.
Yeah, he tried to headbutt a prison governor before. He's attacked prison officers. He's outside prison. He's attacked gardaí when he's been in custody. Like it's a lot of that sort of stuff.
And then when he got out, then I think it was 2013, and he was out. I think he was only out a number of weeks. And he stabbed a couple of people more or less randomly on the street. Like.
Yeah, and I think it was kind of robbery type offences again, and they were within a couple of minutes of each other in Dublin city centre. Where one of them he attacked an Irish man, another one he attacked a Mauritian man, minutes apart. But one of them, he actually, after he was arrested, he told the guards he'd aimed for his organs. He wanted to kill him. His bird got in the way. Was the
I mean, this is
used.
So that your man was just walking down the street.
Oh yeah, no, these people are completely innocent. These are just random people targeted. This isn't anyone he had any beef with. These are innocent people out for out in town, just walking around.
Exactly.
And he just tried to attack them. I think there might have been a robbery motive on one of them, and then he went on his rampage. But I think it shows you the psychology of him, that even after he's arrested, it's very rare you'd hear a criminal tell the guards, "Oh, I was trying to kill that person."
Yeah.
Like, that'll show you the mentality that he has. So he's not thinking to himself, "I'm trying to avoid a sentence. I'm a master criminal." That's just his mentality is, "I wanted to kill him."
Yeah.
I had no reason to kill him.
No.
And he said he would have killed him if his bird hadn't gotten in the way. So that, like, it is probably lucky.
It's a rarity, really, to have somebody that's just randomly, just randomly commits that level of violence on a total stranger.
And it's come up in the past with him when he's been in court, how he had a very troubled upbringing. There would have been neglect and different issues in his past. That's been brought up in mitigation for him before. I think obviously he has psychological issues as well, which probably aren't helped by whatever upbringing that he's referring to in his mitigation. But yeah, he is a very dangerous person to be around.
So he went in, I think, in that, I can't remember, it's 2014, and he got a healthy sentence again. Caused the same sort of levels of problems in prison, was very much, had to be kept separate. And then he got out, and this most recent offence, I don't remember exactly when he got out, but it was in the 2020.
I think it was 2019. I think he got out. So I think he would have benefited then from the final reduction unit, which I think came in 2018. Recollection. So that probably helped him a little bit in terms of when he came out, that he might have had a better way of coping with his anger. But obviously, he'd been out for a while. He had got into trouble a couple of times with a few issues, but obviously then that exploded into the kind of crime spree he went on earlier this year.
Yeah, so I mean, it's actually come to court quite quickly because it was February. These all happened in February. It was a series of incidents over a few days. Yeah,
most of them are related. He was up on 4 different charge sheets of multiple charges each. Yeah. Some of them actually predated it, and he was actually he was due in court around the time of this for other offences he'd committed. He'd gone on. I was actually down in court on the day just to see him coming up. He didn't turn up in court. A bench warrant was actually issued for him, but at the same time, he'd actually already started this crime spree, so he was out committing these robberies all around North Dublin primarily. And guards, the guards knew it was him. They were searching for him actively, but it was shops, it was off licenses, it was supermarkets, it was this. He might take €100, he might get 600 if he's lucky in one of them, but they're all small enough amounts. But he was going in with his 19-centimetre blade in his hand. It must be terrifying for all those people, but it was multiple counts of that.
Now, these in the modern world, I mean, if you go into an off license, the most you're going to get is a couple of €100 because they don't have big wads of cash anymore. They either put them aside or put them in a safe or whatever that can't be accessed. Now he knows he's not going to get more than that. Now, if you hold up a shop like that with a knife, it's an armed robbery, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same as going along and trying to hold up a cash and transit van. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, they're both armed robberies. Yeah, if you have a weapon in your hand that you can kill someone with, it's the same thing as going along having a gun, trying to do 100 grand or whatever amount of robbery you're going to do. Okay, maybe the courts might look at them differently depending on the judge, but it is the same offence.
Yeah, I mean,
so the risk reward for him there for that is, and he's well known. He's not they knew who was doing these things. Yeah. When they seen this sequence happen, they just needed to track him down. So he was going to get caught.
So, I mean, the risk reward, and this kind of makes it why it is genuinely scary, because the maximum they're going to get is a couple of hundred, or, you know, maybe.
I think the biggest amount he got was about 600, but the vast majority of them were like 100, 150, 200 at a time.
And somebody like him who has those convictions in the past, I mean, they're going to get, you know, at the very best case scenario, 6 or 7 years. So really, you know, that's 20 quid a year. Like, it's a crazy thing to do. But that also shows you how reckless and you know, how irrational these things are, and therefore dangerous.
Well, that's what I think. Like, once again, with him particularly, you'd have to keep going back. It's a psychological issue with him. It's not a criminal who wants to make money, and that's just, I'm going to try and have the biggest car, the biggest watch, you know, and I want to have a mansion or whatever. This is someone with serious issues, you know, and kind of spiraling out of control clearly at this period, and has many times in his life. Yeah,
so there was a few of them, was there, over a few days? There was a number of
multiple ones. I think there was six or seven or so. And even like he went back to one of the places and robbed it again the following day. So, you know, he's, once again, you're going to get caught doing that. Like, you know, and like he was already, I think then he probably knew he would have been already identified. It was a case of gardaí trying to find out where he was.
Yeah.
But yeah, multiple ones, including going back to the same place. And a lot of them in the same wider area of North Dublin. They weren't too far apart. I think a lot were around Ballymo and Meekstown. I think there might have been one up in Swords as well, but it was in a general vicinity.
Yeah, you could probably walk around them, really. And I mean, I don't think he's had his face covered for some of them either or anything.
No, I don't think so. But like, once again, I don't think he's one of these criminals that's thinking out things like some master criminal. Like, he's super duper sitting down and plotting for months in advance to do some big job of 2.3 million or whatever, you know.
So then he's confronted in this home in Ballymun. Initially, it's kind of locals who are sort of surrounding him, are they? And before the guards come, and they take him, the guards give him a warning, and they use non-lethal force.
Yeah, so you can see there's actually videos of this, and there's multiple guards. So they've arrived down. You have the local uniform guards from Ballymun. You had the armed support unit there. You had local detectives from Ballymun with the firearms on the scene as well. So you had a lot of guards that obviously got word he was down there, tracked him down to here, surrounded the place. He was wandering up and down in the front garden with this 19-centimeter knife.
Yeah,
and the guards are obviously telling him to drop the weapon and warning him, you will be shot. You know, telling him, Leon, you will be shot.
Yeah.
Drop the weapon. He's kind of refusing to do it, pacing around the garden for a while. There's a lot of onlookers, obviously, as well in the area. So guards are trying to deal with that as well, where they're trying to keep people back, because you have a live situation where you have someone armed with a lethal weapon. You have gardaí with their guns in their hand pointing it at him. And then you have multiple people standing around either videoing or trying to get a look at what was going on.
Yeah, and some of them are telling him to put it down, and some of them not so clear. I mean, obviously they don't know what's happening. So this is all video. You don't see many of these sort of videos, obviously. But, you know, how do the guards operate in this circumstance? Obviously, they operate in different ways, but they do successfully disarm him.
Yeah,
he doesn't give up. Like, they have to use force.
Oh, he didn't give up. No, and like at one point, you can see in one of the videos that a guard with a baton actually just tries to whack it out of his hand. Simple as that. And then Leon kind of swings at him. You know, and it gets quite tense from that point on. So obviously that didn't work. So then that probably riled him up even more.
Yeah,
the guards. You know, you can hear in one of the videos that I'd seen before, like a kind of bang at some stage, and people had said he'd been shot, but guards said that they'd used less than lethal. Deterrents on him, which I think include kind of these 40mm non-lethal rounds, and you can use tasers and pepper spray. Yeah. So they've just said that they've used those methods. They don't go into specifics of exactly what was used on them,
but they don't use. It's not plastic bullets, is it? It's more like kind of bean bags or something.
Yeah, it's like a direct impact munition. They call it. Like, so it would take you down. Yeah, but it's not going to kill you. Is the aim of it, basically.
Like, obviously the plastic bullets were something that used to be used up the north, and that they did.
Some of them did kill people.
They did.
Over the years, obviously.
But, as far as I know, they're not as. It is something like a little beanbag that will take you down, but very little chance of you know, damaging your organs. So he's taken down, and then he was brought to court. Obviously, he was presumably kept on remand. I don't think he got bail or applied for bail. What did the judge say at his sentencing, and what was the sentence in total?
It was a complicated sentence here, and so the sentencing, because there was, you have 4 different charge sheets with multiple different charges, and each of them, from different events that were happening. Like I say, he was out on bail at the time, so there was just multiple, as well as obviously the ones that we talked about there that were in the preceding couple of days. He'd also been up for assault charges and things like that, which had happened before that. He'd also had a suspended sentence for attacking 5 peace officers. He was given the part suspended sentence of a year for that previously, so that's been reactivated.
Yeah.
So you add everything together, it's quite a complicated sentencing, but it was 10 and a half years with 4 years suspended, and he got 2 sentences of that, but they're to run concurrently, so effectively 1. Then he had another 3 years for an assault and attempted robbery, but once again to run concurrently.
Yeah.
And then he had another year for the suspended sentence. But when you do all the maths on it, and sorry if I've got any
no.
It's effectively, I think, 7.5 years is the prison sentence for the various different things taken into the round.
And he obviously pled guilty. Was there mitigation given? Was there?
I don't know what mitigation was given, but no doubt there was.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd assume there'd be mitigation obviously given in it, given his background and all that sort of stuff, which would have taken off. Like, there was a significant part suspended of that sentence, considering his criminal history. So, that the judge obviously did take that into account. But the problem for him obviously is once he gets out of prison, if he goes back, that's a suspended sentence. It's going to be reactivated again. Yeah,
it's a long list of crimes for still a relatively young man. But look, it's an interesting case, I suppose, and these people are very hard to handle in the prison system. There's no doubt about it. So thanks, Alan.
No bother.